Hello, my name is Sanji, and I am going to talk about the modern industrial foods and their effects on the human body. First, what is a processed food? A processed food is characterized as ready to eat or ready to heat products manufactured mostly from multiple ingredients, usually combined with additives or industrial formulation. This means that have undergone changes or have gone through some degree of industrial processing. Some of these foods contain monosodium glutamate. Monosodium glutamate is a flavor enhancer commonly added to Chinese food, canned vegetables, soups, and processed meats. The Food and Drug Administration has classified as a food ingredient that generally recognized as safe, but its use remains controversial. Monosodium glutamate is made of water, sodium, and glutamate. Glutamate is an amino acid that is used to make proteins in food and our body. It turns out that glutamate, an amino acid made by many plants and animals, was the source of this distinctive taste, which became known as umami in reference to umai, the Japanese word for delicious. Consuming this causes an alteration in satiety thresholds by interfering with the hormone leptin, which is involved in appetite control, causing the satiety signal. In this way, the appetite and the quantities consumed of this food increase. The problem is that most of the commercial products that we consume on a daily basis has had a great negative effects on our body. So, processed foods are not as good for our health, mainly because they contain many chemicals and the large amount of sugar they contain affects our metabolism and body in general, causing disease such as cardiovascular disease, high cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, among others. Consumption of processed foods in some cases replace fresh foods suitable for good food and growth. Most of the food on the market today has undergone industrial modification with a high content of preservatives, additives, dyes, and flavorings, which leads to chronic disease and cancer in the long or short term. While it is true that processed food can cause chronic disease and be harmful to our health, however, many processed foods are as nutritious as fresh produce that have been stored or even more depending on how they are processed. For example, frozen vegetables are processed a few hours of harvesting and the freezing process involves minimal nutrient loss so that they really retain a high content of vitamins and minerals. However, despite what processed food costs, the intake of this is very high. This is why the population suffers from cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, high blood pressure, obesity, among others, because processed food contains a high content of fats, salt, sugars, and all this has been the consequence of this disease. Now, the consumption of canned foods equally affects our body because cans it contains bisphenol A. Some studies show that they can cause toxic effects and equally obesity and problems with metabolism. Nowadays, Mexican consumers have clear, easy to understand labeling that really tell us what we are consuming. The new front labeling warns of excess fats, calories, and sugars in Mexican foods. The new labeling has been recognized and celebrated by national and international institutions and organizations such as the United Nations Agency, the National Human Rights Commission, the Comprehensive Protection System for the Rights, Girls and Boys and Adolescents, the National Institutes of Health, the UNAM, IPN, WAM, the Secretariats of the Economy and Health, and international organizations such as the World Obesity Federation, the World Cancer Research Fund, and the NCD Alliance.